For the next hour, you're listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast, broadcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Classic Auto Mall is a world-class facility conveniently located just an hour west of Philadelphia on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The building is over 336,000 square feet and is full of over 650 classics for sale and 300 barn finds on display. Check out all the inventory on the website, classicautomall.com. If you have any questions for our host or guest, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. Now on to the show with our host, the president of Classic Auto Mall, Stewart Howden.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Ethan. How's everybody this morning?
Everybody's great.
Glorious southeast Pennsylvania. I can't say what the weather is today.
Because you never know.
You just never know. It could change in a minute, so, we never know. So if I say something and you think that it's maybe a little dated, it could possibly be so. Hey, we got a great show today. We've got, in our second and third segment, we've got Kevin Callahan, the owner of Devin Sportscars. He's going to be on the show to talk about their resurrection of the brand and what they're all doing, and they're just 45 minutes from us here. So excited to hear about that. I've seen his car at Radnor Hunt. He had the gray one with the red stripe, the 56 Devin. It's really cool.
It is cool.
So we've been talking, last week we talked about a little bit about what happened at Mecum and $217 million in sales. And then Barrett-Jackson comes barreling in another $200 million.
Well, their 50th anniversary.
So that
didn't hurt.
Yeah, didn't hurt that. And of course it was, I guess last year they didn't, I don't know what they did. It was more virtual or something. I don't really remember exactly what happened. But anyway, they were back. I think the crowds were limited. There was no spectators last year. There was just bidders or consigners allowed in.
Or sporadic. One year there was like sporadic.
Yeah.
People had this space.
It's good that we're starting to get so much distance from that time that it's almost hard to remember how long ago it was. It's like having a cast on your leg and then you get it taken off. It's like you don't remember how miserable you are with it.
That's right,
because it just fades from you over time.
It's true. I had a car club meeting the other night when nobody had masks and we were eating at a restaurant. Like you take it for granted. But
it feels weird. We were over at the new casino the other night, and the same way it was like. First of all, to be in a casino in Morgantown, Pennsylvania seems odd, and then to be in any event, any building. I know that Philadelphia proper, it requires vaccination cards to go into restaurants or into events, sporting events or museums or any of that. So, but anyway, I don't know how I got off on that. But talking about Barrett-Jackson, their 50th anniversary, $200 million. After the dust is settled, you look back and you just are floored by the numbers that they did. I mean, $200-something million, $217 million in Mecum Kissimmee. There's $420 million in 1 month. Not to mention RM and Gooding and the others that had $8, $10, $12 million sales.
Yep.
I mean, my goodness gracious.
And that doesn't include buyer's fees, right?
That does. No, I think most of them do. They include that.
Like
some of the prices that I was recognizing that we'll talk about here in a minute do include the buyer's premium, which is 8 to 10% depending on where you go, or maybe as high as 12% in some of the auctions.
And don't you have to, if you want to be a bidder, you have to pay a fee to be a bidder?
You have to pay a fee. Usually it's $100 or, I mean, it can be as much as $500. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you pay a bidder fee for every purchase. So let's say you sell a car for $100,000. The buyer pays $110,000. The seller gets $90,000. So
okay, wow.
Not a bad spread.
I think we're in the wrong business.
I think we can maybe do an auction here. We've talked about doing an auction here, but our fear would be that we'd empty out the mall in one day. Then what are we going to do? We have no cars left. So, but anyway, congratulations to Craig Jackson and Steve Davis, the CEO and president of Barrett-Jackson, respectively. And we hope to have them on our show one of these days and talk to them about the auction business and how well they've done and, how they've kept it going for 50 years. One of the things I noticed, it's funny because the market is on fire right now, but still to this day, Shelby Mustangs seem to still be a little flat. They don't seem to really bring the numbers that you would think, especially the 68 GT500 KR convertibles. And although they did sell a 67 GT500 for $324,000. Okay. So, I mean, that's maybe an outlier. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the number one sale at Mecum's sale was a Shelby GT350R. that was a 60, I can't remember what year it was. What was that? Oh, 65. It was the Ken Miles first R model built, brought $3.7 million. So,
there you go.
I mean, so it doesn't sound like they're flat at all.
Well, when you attach Ken Miles' name to it.
Well, exactly. It's like anything. I mean, look at what the Bullet Mustang brought,
Right.
$3 million plus or whatever. Another really fun thing about what Barrett-Jackson does, and just talking about numbers and prices, I get it. They're not the barometer of what the market is. However, it's interesting to see what things bring and don't bring and that kind of thing. The Z06 Corvette was pretty amazing, though. First right, serial number 001, bought by Rick Hendrick.
Was it a charity? It was a charity.
A charity card operation Homefront, which supports
right.
military families. $3.7 million. Wow. And he was on the phone. He wasn't even there. His guy, Dale Ledbetter, who's a friend of mine who works for Hendrick, was there on the phone bidding. Wow. And, you kept seeing in his face when the bid, he'd have to ask the boss for another bid. You think, oh, man, he's going to be mad at me. I need to get this done. So, but Bel Airs were really, really strong in Scottsdale. And
that's good because we have you probably have 6 or 7.
6 or 7, I think we do. It's kind of a moving target. We get some, we lose some, and we don't lose them.
We'll be featuring one on social media soon.
There you go.
I couldn't decide which one to pick. They're all so nice.
I know we've got some really nice ones in stock. Some resto mods and some original ones as well too.
Exactly.
The resto mod Corvettes are through the roof. I mean, they sold a 63. No. It was a 67. A Corvette, a custom convertible, brought $715,000.
That's incredible.
I mean, I've never seen prices for resto mods that high.
No.
They one that we used to have here, not the exact one, but an H1 Alpha Hummer brought $687,000. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Those things are really on fire. And I thought not that long ago they were $150,000, $200,000.
Now you do have 2 Hummers here.
We do. One of them is gone.
Okay.
The other one is still here. Other thing that was on fire out there, Broncos.
Yeah.
And of course, the minute the auction ended, we got a call on the black Bronco we have here. That is
it's like a resto
it's
mod.
a resto mod, and it's in our truck room right outside our studio.
Right. We featured that on social media, as did Maddie.
Yeah.
It's getting a lot of visibility.
Yep. It really is. It's a hot truck. I mean, they were bringing even ones that looked plain Jane vanilla. Were bringing great money. And how about the 19? Did you see the 1968 Suburban 3-door that sold on there?
No.
It sold for $308,000. I mean, that's
almost absurd.
It's crazy. And Eleanor Mustangs were huge out there as well too. We've sold a few of those. The Shelby Series 1s were doing really well.
I like those.
Yeah, $236,000 and $242,000.
Have you had those here?
I haven't had one here. We had one in our place in Branson, Missouri. We had one that
I like those.
And we for whatever reason we could never get it sold. And people would interested in it. People would talk about it and be interested and talk about buying it, but never bought it. And it just sat there
they were soft for a while.
They were soft, and they've started. I mean, 236,000. They used to be about 110, 115. So that's good. The very last Grand National sold with 33 miles on it for $550,000.
Yeah,
and of course it's funny because we just sold one ourselves with 2,600 miles on it. Wasn't the last one?
It's gone.
It's here, but it's sold.
Okay.
And of course, the guy's thinking, oh, maybe I struck a good deal, or maybe it didn't. You never know. I mean, what we like to say, as I said a minute ago, the Barrett-Jackson or Mecum is not the barometer of the market. Listen, we've had cars that people have bought from us and taken to Barrett-Jackson or Mecum, and they've sold for more money than they paid for. Conversely, we've had cars that people have bought from us and they've taken to Mecum or Barrett-Jackson, and they sold for less than they paid for them. So it's not necessarily the barometer. It's not necessarily the end all, but it's certainly fun to watch.
I will say, if you're listening and you have a Buick Grand National, please send it to Classic Automotive Sale for you, because we had incredible social media visibility from that car. It's one close to my heart because I've had them, and so we need more. If you sold that 2600 one, we need more.
We need more, so bring more. How about the Maybelline 58 Lincoln Continental brought $808,000, and a Gold Dust 1962 Lincoln Continental $715,000, a 70 Hemi Superbird $990,000.
That's on par with.
Well, It is, but it didn't. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen them bring quite that much money before. I think that the most I'd ever seen one maybe was $500 or $600, and I may be wrong about that, but
I just always feel like they're $1 million car.
I do too, but like those. Well, the Hemi Cuda's convertibles were certainly, that one was 3-point-something million, and then, but you know what was amazing was that how many cars they sold that were over $200,000, and it becomes almost commonplace when you're watching these auctions to see a $200,000 car sale, yet. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a serious amount of money. Your net worth has to be pretty darn high to raise your hand to buy a $200,000 toy.
You're right. Out of pocket.
Out of pocket, yeah. Because I don't think, well, they are financing more. We're seeing it more here, is that people are financing because money's cheap right now. So, you know, and a lot of guys, we get guys who finance who could write a check for the car without question.
That apparently is the way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Borrow cheap.
Borrow cheap and
keep your money in the bank.
Yeah, keep your money.
We can do a whole show on that.
Yeah, keep liquid, as they like to say. And so we're seeing a lot of that happen. We had a guy who got kind of ticked off at one of the finance companies. He was not one that we deal with on a regular basis, a credit union or something that he dealt with, and he got mad at him. He just wrote a check for it, and I thought, well, why wouldn't you have just done it in the first place? But like you said, money's cheap, and they like to keep their assets, free and clear. Listen, after what we've been through in the past couple of years, I think everybody's a little bit more leery of not being, not having cash or being flush, and so. I certainly get it. But, the stock market keeps, every day, I got to stop watching it. It keeps going down, and it's driving me crazy.
Don't watch that.
I know. You're not supposed to, and I put that stupid app on my phone, and I wish I hadn't have done it because now I can't help myself. I have to check it. And then, of course,
I think cars and real estate are a better investment right now than the stock market. I think so, too.
Real estate is crazy. Try to buy a house in Florida right now. It's just impossible. But
even Morgantown.
Oh, I'm telling you, there's not much real estate available. Nope. So, anyway, the other thing that happened down at Mecum, mid-engine Corvettes were going through the roof. These new Corvettes are just breaking the bank. Grand Wagoneer, one sold for $154,000, one sold for $107,000. And those weren't resto mods; they were back to original or stock. So really, really interesting to watch all that and see what was happening in the market. The other thing is that one of my favorite cars, a '79 Pontiac Trans Am, sold. It was in Nocturne Blue, 400, not the 403 Oldsmobile engine, with a 4-speed Borg Warner, 38 original miles, $118,000.
Wow! Yeah, somebody tucked one of those away.
Yeah, they did.
That's amazing.
And is that a wise thing to do? That's going to be a whole nother show that we're going to talk about tucking things away and what did or didn't happen. 78 Corvettes come to mind, or 76 Cadillac Eldorado convertibles that everybody, the last convertible. And what's this going to be worth in 10, 15 years? And the 78 Corvette, what's it going to be worth? And there for a while, they weren't worth a lot. They've started to come of age a little bit, but certainly not, what they used to be.
And we want to do a whole show on how to, if you're going to buy a car and store it, not intend on driving it, what do you need to do?
Yeah.
Because it's not good for a car necessarily to sit that long.
No.
A car with 33 miles like the Grand National, it's going to have seal issues if you want to drive it.
Absolutely.
That's a museum
Absolutely. Piece. By the way, a shout out to Pat Travers, our theme music. The Pat Travers Band is our theme music that we're using. Offbeat Ride is the name of the song, off the Puttin' It Straight album from 1977. When we return, we're going to have our guest, Kevin Callahan, the owner of Devin Sportscars, in the studio here with us, and we'll talk about the resurrection of Devin. See you then. And we are back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the downtown Morgantown studio. It's the only studio we have, so it wouldn't be like we had multiple studios spread out throughout the country. We just have one. But what's interesting that we were just talking about a minute ago is how many automotive-related businesses and companies and events happen right here in Southeast Pennsylvania. It's amazing. One of those companies that's here is the resurrection of Devin Sportscars. And Kevin Callahan, an engineer and a lifelong classic car guy, resurrected the brand, and he's our guest today. And welcome. Glad to have you here, Kevin.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Great to be at this facility.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. I saw one of your cars at when we were at Radnor Hunt. That's your your driver, isn't it?
Yeah, you saw my silver Devin, which basically a Triumph TR3.
Right.
Yeah, the Radnor Hunt. What a great event that was.
Oh, my gosh. I love that.
Day.
Right in our backyard, too. How cool is that? It's as good as the Amelia. It's as good as Pebble Beach, in my opinion. I mean, it's just a beautiful countryside out there. It's just amazing. So how's the response been to the resurrection of Devin?
Really, really good. there's a community out there. He made over 3,000 bodies of cars. So there's a community out there that hasn't not been supported since Bill Devin started producing these cars and stuff. So amazing how many people have bought bodies and parts of cars and stuff, or how many people have gotten into offs racing. So the first couple of years here, I've been supplying front ends, fenders.
Sure.
Say a group had a body, but they lost the door because the dad had moved 3 times. Now they have a source to go to buy the doors and complete the cars. So it's been a real good opportunity for me to support the community that's out there and grow the brand.
So kind of a hobby turned into a business for you, or?
Yes, my side hustle, let's put it that way. Yeah, I have a real 9-to-5 job, and this just started, and I'm looking forward to doing more and more of this as it goes on.
Well, and Devins were produced from starting in, what, 1954? Was that when they started?
The early 50s to the mid-60s. Bill Devin produced race cars for the rural market there.
Right, and they were legendary. I mean, they were fast back in the day, weren't they? They were.
Yeah, one of his taglines is he produced national championship race cars since 1953. And it was the formula that everyone was doing in Southern California. You took a sophisticated chassis with European parts, lightweight. You put a big American motor in it, and you went racing, and you were successful.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody that we have heard about in the 60s did that. Maybe Shelby, like right behind me.
Yeah, like the picture behind me.
Exactly.
Bill Devin and Shelby knew each other well.
Sure.
They talk about this. Bill Devin's 75th birthday. Shelby was there amongst with a lot of other guys. So they traded secrets a lot.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of guys did. I mean, it was competitive back then, but it probably was more communal than it is nowadays. I mean, we're kind of that way in our business. I mean, we talk about our competitors. We had a classic car dealer on the show last week. So it's it's one of those things that it's okay to talk about your competition. It's not the end of the world. So Devin was powered by whatever you had available, or was there a recommended motor that went in them, or could you buy them with a motor, or how did that work?
Well, we have 2 Bill Devin stories. He made fiberglass bodies that you could buy and put on your race car. So you DIY'd in your driveway, you had a frame, and you wanted to put a nice European-style body, which was lightweight and helped you race.
Sure.
Then Bill Devin made 3 models of cars. He made the Devin SS, the Devin D, and the Devin C. So getting back to your question, his flagship, the Devin SS, had that Chevrolet 283 motor in it.
Right.
The Devin D had a Porsche motor in it.
Oh, really?
Very like a speedster. And then when Corvair came out, he was able to make the Devin C, which was an American-made, now rear-engine car.
Sure. And Devin was into cars before he created this brand of his, right? I mean, he raced cars over in Europe and.
Yeah, he not to go the whole life, but his dad was a car guy. His dad had a dealership. He had several dealerships which he bought and sold over time, which gave him the opportunity, the financial ability to go racing, and he did.
Sure. Well, that's what a lot of rich guys were, the guys who were racing back in the 50s and 60s, and not that he necessarily was rich or not. What part of the world was he living in? Where was he from?
Well, he started out, his parents grew up in the Midwest, but he ended up in Southern California, and that's where he made all of his connections, and he wanted to go racing. He was good, but he wasn't that good.
Right.
And
Well, you see a lot of that of guys who are team owners now that were started out as racers, but maybe weren't quite as good as some of the guys that they could hire, the hired guns, if you will. Because Penske used to race. I mean, Rick Hendrick used to race. Any of the guys who are team owners now used to race. So Devin. Founded in '54 was the company. How long did he run? How many years did he run it, or how long did the company stay in its original form?
Probably up to 64.
Right.
His last car was a Devin GT. It premiered at the New York Auto Show. He did have orders for 64 of them following that show. He just did not have the financial ability and commitment to go forward and produce those. But there's 2 of these cars still remaining. They're worth a lot.
Sure, absolutely. One just sold recently at RM Auctions, I believe. Brought $70-something thousand, I think, for that.
Yeah, John Pretty's, that was a Corvair, so that was a Devin C, that sold, and that was a real good example of an original Devin C. But,
beautiful, because the paint job and the interior just looks stunning on that car. So Devins, I think, are misnomered for a lot as kit cars. They're not really kit cars, though, are they? I mean,
I'm glad you brought that up, and it does. I heard Jerry Leno on his show go. They're talking. Oh yeah, Bill Devin, he made those kit cars,
cars.
But Yeah, so a kit car, I think, came about in the 70s or 80s, where people wanted to build a car that looked like something.
Right.
But you got to go back. Bill Devin, he built the car to go racing, and that's where the DNA is.
Sure.
So he built the car to go racing. So it did have a fiberglass body, so it kind of falls into that kit car. But
Well, it'd be like calling a Corvette a kit car. I mean,
Yeah.
just a
There you
little
go.
bit more volume, right? But there were street legal Devins as well, too. Did he build them just for racing, or did he build them for the street as well?
for the street also.
Yeah.
He had a manufacturer's license. One of the fun things I get when I bought the Devin Sportscar company, I got banker boxes of correspondence.
Wow.
And the correspondence between him and the California state, and his manufacturer's license. I still have his license plate that was given to him by the state of California
Wow.
to manufacture cars.
How cool.
So,
When you bought the rights to Devin, did any inventory come with it? Did anything, or was it just the rights and the name, and you have to go forward all on your own?
no, and that's a very cool part about it. I flew out there. I had to be barret-jackson one year, so
Right.
I pushed my way out to California and met with the son of one of the guys who owned it. And so it was amazing how many parts and pieces, containers full.
Wow.
So we looked at these containers full of jigs and the original molds and the patterns and everything. And when I bought it, one of the more fun things that came about, I told my family I was going to do it. And,
Right.
I was telling my wife I'm going to buy car parts this time, not just another car. She was great about it. But
That's
my
good.
kids said, hey, we'll go out with you. So I have two, kids, and we flew out to California. We loaded up these containers. We hung out, did some surfing, hung out in California for a while, and came back.
Nice,
What a
nice.
very cool weekend of my life.
Yeah, you have to have support of your, your family and especially your wife, and to do these kind of crazy things that we do. My wife wonders how all of our vacations somehow there's a car deal that's involved. There's always an event or a concours or something happening when we go on vacation. I don't know how that happens. It just seems to be kind of a random thing, right?
Yeah.
And
We go out to Hershey every year for Christmas.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I
exactly.
gotta go see the car museum, dear. And,
Yeah,
we'll
wasn't it
fit that in there.
Wasn't it
Yeah.
great to have Hershey back this year as well? I mean,
Yep.
after missing a year, and I tell you what, people were so disappointed in missing Hershey. They've been coming every single year for the past 50 years, and then or however long they've been doing it, and all of a sudden it just wasn't there. And it becomes part of your DNA when people, they take their sons, and then sons take their sons, and it just becomes a family tradition. And so it's really a wonderful thing. We always have a big setup at Hershey, and we love having. One of these days we'll have to have a Devin in our booth out there.
There you go.
That would be great.
I would love
Fantastic.
to
I'd
do
love to
that.
have that
Yep.
car there. And what made Devins different back in the day? What made them stand out from the crowd?
They stood out from the crowd because, and Cobra Shelby stood out from the crowd. They embraced the technology that was over in Europe. We did not have the components. We didn't have Gremlin brakes. We didn't have different shocks. So Shelby went out and as Bill Devin went out to a group in Ireland who made the chassis for him. So he had the best of the European technology that was brought back in the chassis he built from two guys in Ireland. He fitted it with a lightweight body that was actually very Ferrari-like.
Right.
And then he put his motor in there, which was very powerful.
Right.
So what a car you had.
Yeah.
And
Didn't
it
he
was
own a
great
Ferrari
fun.
and campaign a Ferrari back in the day?
He was a car dealer in a way, and one of the cars he had a Barchetta.
Right.
And actually, Phil Hill drove that to several races and was very successful in it. So
Wow, that's pretty good provenance.
yeah. He had he had Maseratis, Ferraris, and him and Ginetti were very good friends.
Right,
In fact,
right.
there's a story we tell that they flew out, and Bill Devin was going to run in Le Mans one year.
Right.
And they flew to the factory, and old man Ferrari did not have his Devin done.
Right.
And it was pretty funny. Mike Hawthorne was there with him too, and Mike Hawthorne's Devin wasn't done. Ferrari wasn't done.
right.
So they traveled over and they raced in Le Mans. Actually, Ginetti did with Tommy Cole.
Right.
Tommy Cole had gotten off, and he actually died in the race.
Right.
So Ginetti stayed back with Cole for the funeral, and Bill Devin just floated back to the Ferrari factory.
Right.
And that's where he made a lot of decisions. He said, you know what, I can do this too.
Sure,
You know,
sure. That's
I see what they're
inspirational,
doing,
yeah.
And that's how we really started building the Devin SS and getting his jump start in the car world.
Well, and Ginetti, I mean, he had North American Racing Team, NART, which everybody may or may not be familiar with, and he was the original importer of Ferraris right into the United States.
And that's how Bill was getting them
Sure.
Ginetti, yeah.
And Kirk White, who I don't know if you know who Kirk White is. He was a Ferrari dealer back in the day, and he's got a great book. And he was another guy from around here. You know, I love the local connections that we have. Penske, right? You know, grew up. You know, was right up the street from us here as one of their larger corporate campuses they have right here, and just all the connections of cars. And so it's a natural for you to be in this area, in my opinion, because of the car culture. I guess you feel that, don't you?
I do, and I listened to your podcast. It's funny. Our facility now is an ex-Redding truck body facility over in Willow Grove. When I need parts made, I have these wooden patterns. Somebody carved these patterns out of wood. They're a piece of artwork themselves. But I go down. I'm leaving the show here today. I'm going down to pick up some brake calipers that the Amish cast me in sand, and it's just crazy. The skill set that's here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to continue what I'm doing, from machinist to the Amish to fiberglass guys who build my bodies. It just really excites me.
Yeah, it's a hotbed of activity around here with cars. And how many guys you run into who have 10 or 15 or 25 cars in a collection in a barn, and they're just down the street, and you hardly even, people that have lived there their whole lives never have heard of them or seen them or knew that they were even there. And of course, with the internet, more and more things are coming to light, and we're seeing more and more of that. And of course, the Amish, the work that they do with wood is just amazing. Although I was down at the chat, we were talking a little while ago about the Chattanooga Concours d'Elegance, and went to Corky Coker's place, Honest Charlie Speed Shop, and they do restorations, and they recast wooden wheels, and they're making these wooden wheels like for cars from the 20s that are just amazing, the wooden spokes and everything. And I mean, it's so nice that people are continuing to carry on the tradition, and I hope, I would imagine that's your hope as well too, is that Devin, the tradition and the memories of it will come to fruition, and people will want to own a Devin sports car built currently, and you're building them now, right?
Yes, and not whole cars yet, but what we're excited about right now is we're actually building 2 test and development vehicles.
Nice.
And we're sorting out everything. One is being shipped to Europe and be completed in Europe. One will be here in the United States. So that's going to give us a lot of insight to what Bill Devin. The story of Bill Devin really hasn't been told.
Right.
People go, I know Shelby. Well, you know Shelby because you saw the movie. There's not a movie about Bill Devin.
But we could do one.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a studio, or a start of a studio. Anyway, when we return, Kevin Callahan will continue our discussion with on Devin sports cars and everything automotive that we can think of in a minute. And we are back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast, live maybe, from the Classic Auto Mall studios in wonderful, beautiful downtown Morgantown, Pennsylvania, with our guest, Kevin Callahan, the resurrector of Devin sports cars and all things Devin, right? You're probably a light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of guys who are restoring these things that you've now resurrected. You have parts available, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it really helps that person who wanted to always complete their Devin. Devins sometimes were like a model airplane. Everybody bought them, but no one actually finished building them all. So
exactly.
Yeah, but you slept better knowing that it was in your garage and your dreams lived on. Well, people are getting to be that certain age and looking, saying, you know what, I'm going to complete my Devin now.
Sure. I mean, that's great. I mean, listen, everybody's eyes are bigger than their stomach sometimes, and you think, I can't tell you how many project cars I've sold to guys who come back 3 years later and there hasn't been anything done, and they sell me back that and buy a done one because they realize it was way more work or way more expensive than they thought. But Devins back in the day, were they affordable or were they expensive for the time?
If you bought, and it's funny, we've heard the bodies were called $295 bodies because they were $295. So you could buy a body for $295 and it would fit 27 different frame sizes by shortening the sill under the door or making the body wider or smaller. So yes, that was affordable to people who wanted to complete that dream.
Right.
when the cars were produced, they were more than Corvettes, and that's one of the things that hurt Bill Devin. He wanted to bring the SS to the market for $5,600.
A lot of money back then.
But it turned out to be $10,000 when he had to do it. So they were not, and that's one thing that the price point of the car prevented him from making more than, say, the 20 or 30 that he made.
Sure. Well, that seemed to be the case with a lot of guys building their own cars. DeLorean comes to mind. His was double what he originally wanted it to be.
Yep.
And had it been cheaper, same for the Devin, I imagine that the sales would have been better and he would have been more prosperous with the brand. Although it's amazing that they didn't make that many because it's so well known to this day. I mean, people still recognize the Devin name. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yeah, in the car world, they do. His completed cars, maybe he made over 100 manufactured cars, but we have 3,000 of these bodies out there. So there's quite a population of Devin owners, whether it's a body or a complete car.
Sure.
And they're bringing big money at auctions.
Yeah, it's like we said. And was the what kind of race history did they have? Were there lots of wins on them, or was it SCCA mostly, or
mostly SCA, CCAA? Like I mentioned, I haven't yet, but the first one was in 1953. He had developed what was called a Panhard.
Right.
He bought 12 of these Panhard chassis, and that's the first time he actually played around with this miracle product of the 50s, fiberglass. It was like, wow, we can build now a body. We don't have to build a buck and hammer it out of metal.
Right.
So he built these fiberglass bodies for these Panhards, and an interesting story about Bill Devin, he was the first one to develop a belt for an overhead cam. So, and he did that on the Panhards. He figured out a way. Panhard was almost like a motorcycle motor. He had an overhead cam, and he took a belt which had teeth and actually ran the cam with that belt.
Wow.
He never patented, and it's gone on now. Cars all over the world use these belts, but he's credited for the guy who invented the belt.
Did he design the body of the Devins, or did somebody else do that for him?
The Panhard he kind of designed, but it was Jimmy Orr who dropped off a Ferrari type body car.
Right.
It was a Ferrari body by Sergio Schiavetti.
Right.
So he actually took a mold off of that one the first time.
Right.
So that body does follow the lines. If you're following at home and you want to Google an image of a Devin, you'll say, wow, that thing looks like a Ferrari Testarossa or maybe a Maserati 300 or 450S. So the styling influences definitely came from the Italians for that body.
Sure. Did he, and I guess growing up in the Midwest, had those good Midwestern values, and then he moved to California and probably got caught up in it just like everybody else did. I mean, that was when the hot rod craze was going wild, and sports car craze as well, too. I mean...
Yeah, he was, like many of them, he was coming back from the war.
Yeah.
And a lot of these hot rodders, when we look back on it, he worked for Douglas Aircraft, but as a Navy, or whatever he was in the Navy, he was a machinist.
Right.
So it was during the Navy he honed his machining skills, problem-solving skills. A lot of these guys were very solution-oriented.
Sure.
From Ken Miles to, Shelby, they knew how to look at a problem and solve it. So you had at that time, all these guys came back from the war, they were in Southern California, and they were building cars. And cars that could beat the big manufacturers in Europe, and it was a really exciting time.
Did they buy the motors directly from the manufacturers? Or
Yes.
They were able to do that back then? Yeah.
One thing, Ford and Chevy, and you see that, they could produce motors. And Europeans couldn't get motors like we could in the United States at the time.
Well, they still sell them. People don't maybe even realize it, but you can still buy crate motors from Chevrolet and from Ford and Chrysler and all of those. Pretty interesting that you can, although I think they just discontinued the 427 or something that they had resurrected as well. So, with a company like Devin, obviously it's a passion for you as much as anything. Where do you see it going in the future? What do you see happening? What's your vision?
We want to complete these 2 test and development cars to see what we have. We're going to take them racing. We're going to see how successful they are at racing. And I think they will be based on the design, the technology, 4-wheel disc brakes, Dion tube rears, inboard brakes, all the things that were successful in a car in the 50s. And I think we're going to have a really good proof of concept that's showing that this car can compete very well.
Right.
And, we'll look to build... frames. I have the jigs for the original frame, the body panels, we still have a lot of bodies we can pull off of those molds, and whether we do a DIY or complete car, we're not there yet.
Sure.
But yeah, I can see it's working for, say, Jaguar. They have a continuation car.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these manufacturers are doing it now. So, yeah, can we produce a continuation car of the Devin SS, which is his flagship? I think that would be really well received by people.
I do too. It's a beautiful design, and especially like the one that you drive. I was just noting, if you go on their website, which is your website is devinsportscars.com, I think.
You almost have it. They have Devin Sportscars and maybe LLC at the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's. I think it is. Yeah. You can Google it and find it, and that's just that gray one with the red stripe is just absolutely stunning. I would think that car. I imagine you get offers on that car all the time. Everybody probably wants to buy it from you, I would imagine.
It's great, and I judge my car shows on how much voice I have left when I come home from them. Have I been talking all day? And I realize I just talk the whole day. And guys come up to me and say, like, man, everybody's just hanging out around your car. And I go, oh, it's something they haven't seen before. It catches their eyes. You and I probably grew up watching Speed Racer. So
Absolutely.
my eyes are focused to a car that looks like that, you know. So, yeah, when I go home not being able to speak, it was a good car show.
It was a good day, wasn't it? So, and who's going to be doing the driving during these racing times? Will that be you, or will you hire a young gun to do that?
Hot foot, we call him.
Yeah.
I can't give up too many, but hopefully we're taking a car to the Goodwood Revival, and we're going to have a hot shoe in there.
I'm in.
So, I can't name the name of the driver we're working on right now, but it will be well represented.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Goodwood is on my bucket list, so if you have an extra slot over there, just let me know. I'll be glad to fill in. I keep threatening to go there, and Monaco, and where else do I want to go? There's 4 or 5 different places that I haven't ever been that I need to go one of these days. And Goodwood, have you been to Goodwood?
I have not.
Oh man,
it's trying to get my 50s outfit together so I can head over there and tell the listeners it's kind of interesting. You have to go in period clothes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not? It's like going to the Kentucky Derby. If your wife doesn't have a big hat, then you're not doing it right. Yep. So as far as if people want more information about buying a Devin or buying parts or any of that, they can obviously go to the website. They can reach out to you directly. Mm-hmm. And do you anticipate? Where do you see it in 10 years from now? Do you think that one of the sons of yours, will they take over the business someday, do you think? Do they have the passion for it that you do?
So a couple questions there. Yeah. So, follow us. We do have a newsletter we send out, so jump on the website and sign up for a newsletter. My sons do not have the passion, but going back to this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania story, when I was putting the deal together to purchase Devin, there was a guy named Craig Jones. And I corresponded with him on the internet back and forth every once in a while. So I'm like, maybe I'll get Craig involved. Right. He is the Devin guy. He holds the Devin register. And I'm like, hey, Craig, where are you located again? He goes, I'm in Jenkintown. I go, I'm in Abington. We realized we're 1.2 miles away from each other.
Wow.
So I'm sure even if I go on, Craig is going to run with this. We're working together on a lot of things now, but small world, that's a great example.
Yeah, I need one of those too. My kids have very little interest in cars. My son wants solid tires on his car because he can't understand why we need to put air in tires and they'll go flat on you. So I'm looking for somebody to take the reins here one of these days, and hopefully we'll find it. So the website is devinsportscarsllc.com. I was just looking that up and get that correct, so our listeners will be able to get on your website and check it out. And are you doing any more shows or any more concours or anything where you're going to have the car out? Anything in the plans coming up where people can see it in person?
I haven't looked at the whole schedule, but one of them I'll definitely do. I know you're at that. It's the Coltsville Grand Prix.
I love that
event. That is, I went last year as just to see what it was all about. So I'm looking forward to doing a couple laps around the town there. Absolutely. And showing the car.
How fun is that? It's funny. The first time I went was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was blown away. It was just really well done. And, there's so many great, like we said, car events around here. The hill climb that they have up in Reading is amazing, where they go up to the pagoda. That's an amazing racing event. They used to do a hill climb in Hershey, but I think a couple of years ago they stopped doing it, and I'm not sure if they're going to continue or not. It was in conjunction with the Concours d'Elegance, which the Riches put on, and they didn't do one even before COVID, and then they haven't done one since, so I'm not sure if it's coming back or not. But certainly, what a great way to show off a car, especially a racing car, at a race. Or and they're not. I mean, the Coachville Grand Prix is not technically a race, but you can go as fast as you want, right? I mean, it's
Just follow the leader, but you get the experience, and the cars come around the corner, and people hear the sounds, and it's kind of like how racing was.
Sure. I mean, the crowds that turn out for that event are amazing. So I'd like to see more of these Coachville Grand Prix type events, because it's an opportunity for people to experience cars that they've never seen before, maybe in an environment that they've never seen them in. So please don't forget to check out Kevin's website. If you have any questions for him, I'm sure you can email him on the site, and sign up for his newsletter, and sign up for our newsletter as well too, and you'll learn everything about cars that maybe we'll get to sell at Devin one of these days. So
yeah, it'd be great to get one in there.
We'd love to do that, and we will be back in just a few minutes. And thanks again, Kevin, for being on the show.
Okay.
And we are back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the Classic Auto Mall studios in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Soon to be world famous because we've got a casino, so that'll make us. What a great guest. And I love the passion for people that are resurrecting brands like Devin, and it's just so cool to see. And I wish him all the success in the world. What a really neat guy, and the passion that he has for being an engineer, all those, checks all the right boxes, and loves to talk about cars, and that's what makes this hobby go around. I mean, you go to these car shows and you see people talking about their car all day long, and he just happens to be, to own the manufacturer. It'd be like Mr. Louis Chevrolet out there.
I first heard of Devin when I went to Abington to buy something off of Craigslist or something for my wife, whatever. Right. And the guy's cleaning out his garage, and he said he's restoring a Devin. I had no idea.
Never heard of it. Yeah.
And it just happened to be in Abington. It has nothing to do with
right.
these guys, other than the car itself. Right. I mean, I'm fascinated by obscure brands.
Yeah, me too. I love that kind of stuff, the orphan brands.
Yeah, orphan brands.
Yeah,
obscure.
That we see, and obscure. So one of our features that we do is called Four on the Floor, and it's a trivia contest. I hope this car is still here, by the way, because we created these a while back, right?
Yes.
So let's hope that the car is still here. And I can tell you real quickly.
Right.
If it's still here, just to make sure.
Yes, I try to create these weeks several weeks in advance. So at the movement of your stock
the way we're moving
right
inventory, I believe this one is still in stock. So we give you 4 clues, and you send us an email to podcast@classicautomall.com, and tell us what the stock number, year, make, and model of the car is. It's a specific car. It's not just a 77 Eldorado, or something along that. It's a specific car we have in inventory. So, and we have 4 clues that we give every week, and they're pretty interesting clues. So the first clue is rhinestone cowboy appropriate. Lived 1957 to 1976. That might help narrow it down for some people. Binary. I don't think. Okay. And get in. ... and bring your plywood. So, those are the 4 clues. Rhinestone cowboy appropriate, lived 1957 to 1976, binary, B-I-N-A-R-Y for those of you who don't know. Get in, bring your plywood. If you know the answer to the specific car that's in our inventory, we'll send you a cool Classic Auto Mall baseball cap. Email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. Or if you're just interested in the car or something with Classic Auto Mall in general, info@classicautomall.com will get you to us, and we'll, if you have a car for sale, or if you're interested in buying a car that you've seen on our website or something along those lines. And the sales, of course, we recorded last week, so we're actually a week, I don't know where we are. I think we're a week behind.
Week later.
A week later. So this is 2 weeks of sales of where we've sold cars to in the past 2 weeks. And it's another long list, so I'll do my marathon reading and hope it's not too boring for you. So we've sold cars in the past 2 weeks to Orlando, Florida, Shama, Colorado, New Brandenburg, Germany, Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, Unionville, Connecticut, Warrington, Pennsylvania, Bloomfield, Connecticut, Frisco, Texas, Marqueux, France, Orrville, Ohio, Dover, Pennsylvania, Naples, Florida, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Staten Island, New York, Maxar, Malta, I'd like to go to Malta. Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Elverson, Pennsylvania. Millstone Township, New Jersey. Riverside, California. Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Palo Cedro, California. I'm sure I'm butchering some of these. Middletown, Pennsylvania. San Francisco, California. Ojai, California. Dawsonville, Georgia. Awesome Bill from Dawsonville is from Dawsonville, Georgia. Windsor, Pennsylvania. Seabright, New Jersey. Richmond, Kentucky. Dewshore, Pennsylvania. Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Boone, Iowa. Deer Trail, Colorado. Kingsville, Maryland. Paso Robles, California. I'm sure I was wrong on that, too. Austin, Texas, Laredo, Texas, Eureka, Montana, Chester Springs again, Pennsylvania, Webster, Wisconsin, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Atco, New Jersey, Belton, Texas, Faribault, Minnesota. So that's where we've sold cars to in the past 2 weeks.
It's amazing. Some of them are 5 miles down the road and then across the world.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre how that kind of works out, isn't it? So we were talking about pricing on cars and all that. One thing I failed to mention, and I've been meaning to talk about it, Worldwide Group, which is a group based in Auburn, Indiana, is an auction house. They sold, get this, a Duesenberg Model J engine. So the Duesenberg Model J is the top of the line Duesenberg. And those are the J models, were the sports car of the day. They were big, they were fast, they were cool, and they bring crazy money nowadays. The engine from a Model J brought $775,000
wow.
at auction. I mean, that's just the engine. They are a work of art. If you've never seen a Duesenberg engine, they're big and long and beautiful and just amazing, amazing car. Speaking of cars, some of the new consignments that we've consigned lately, a 56 Chevrolet 210 two-door sedan. Oh, well, that sounds like, what is that? What? Well, it's got 15,000 original miles.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's got the old reliable Blue Flame 6, 235 cubic inch Blue Flame 6, a 3-speed manual transmission on the column, which people are very confused by.
Right.
You get somebody in the car with a column shift, and they're like, what do you do with this?
Three on the tree, right?
Three on the tree is what they used to call it. And it's basically just the same pattern as an H pattern.
Okay.
It's just on the column.
I've never driven one, actually.
You've never? Oh,
now
now, Steve, we have to rectify that. So
I've driven a Volkswagen Beetle that was a stick shift that you didn't have a clutch.
An auto stick.
Okay, auto stick, right.
Yeah.
That's about the most exotic shifter I've ever used.
Well, I just bought a car with a manual
Did you?
transmission. Yeah, 6-speed manual transmission.
You want to tell us what it is?
Well, it's a new to me car. It's a 2006 Porsche
Nice.
Carrera
Okay.
S Cabriolet.
Okay.
6-speed.
Nice.
In a beautiful blue. And of course, I can't get it delivered because of the stupid weather. It's been raining here for 3 days. And thank goodness it wasn't 10 degrees colder. Or as one of my friends and I were walking to a bar one night from somewhere else, and his wife said, if it was colder out and raining, it'd probably be snowing. I said, well, yeah.
That's true.
That could be possibly true. Or you could do like one of my friend's wives called him one time and said, honey, I am exhausted. Do I really have to wait till 2 a.m. to set my clock back? Some of the other interesting inventory we've gotten in, a 76 AMC Gremlin.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't see those very often. You hear about the Pacers a lot.
Right.
And we have a Pinto as well, too. So we've got two of the least favorite cars.
Dave Freiberger's working on a Gremlin right now. So it's kind of reemerged.
Reemerged. The Gremlin is pretty cool. It's a rebuilt engine and transmission. 258 cubic inch inline 6, 95 horsepower. Room.
But lots of room for a crate engine.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you got plenty of room in there. And they're kind of a cool looking car. If it's like I always say about like late 70s and 80s Corvettes. I kind of overlook them because they weren't that powerful. But then when I read the description that my writer writes about them, I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad looking car. If you get past the part that you had in your head that it was never very powerful, it only had 190 horsepower or whatever. Another neat car, 68 Dodge Dart GT Convertible. Really a cool car. 383, 727 torque flight transmission. It's in metallic green. Really a beautiful car. And then we got a really unusual car in, a 36 Cord 810 Westchester sedan. Those were, original front-wheel drive cars, probably the first front-wheel drive car. A Lycoming 288 cubic inch V8, and Lycoming, I think, was made in Williamsport or
that area
over there, Williamsport or Lock Haven. And select shift semi-automatic. I don't really know what that means exactly, but you probably do since you've driven those exotic shifters.
Right.
And then and it was labeled at the time the most striking and innovative car of its time. So that was kind of its tag.
They all say that.
Yeah, of course they did. And then of course, the aforementioned Pinto that we have in.
Yes.
That was a dealer demo car. It's the 2.8 liter, 90 horsepower V6. So
The bright red one, right?
Yeah. So it's Do you know that I would imagine that you could probably take a Pinto or a Gremlin or a Pacer, any of those three, and you could probably. I'm not leaning into my mic very well. Sorry, I'm over here just leaning back like I'm.
I feel like your voice carries. No. Okay.
So
the engineer
anyway,
says lean in, lean in.
He says lean in, you lean in. By golly, you don't want. He can really make us sound bad. So
right.
The Pinto is interesting because I would imagine that if you took a Pinto or a Gremlin or a Pacer and went to the gas station, you'd gather a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more so than if you drove up in a new Bentley or something. You know,
It's true.
It's funny when you drive. I used to drive only classic cars. I'd just drive something off the lot,
Mm-hmm.
and every time you go to the gas station, people would come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times I'd just I'd drive my pickup truck or something, and nobody would come up to you at the gas station. You're like, well, wait a minute, why are people coming up to me? Well, they're not coming up to you because it wasn't you.
Right.
It was the car. You know, they were coming to talk about the car.
Exactly.
So, you know, hey, I learned these things as I get older and why I look so good in a dark bar and other things like that.
Can I tell you a funny story? One time I was I had air shocks on my Trans Am right before I got rid of it. And I was filling up air, and there was a guy standing behind. I thought, this guy likes my car. He's, I was at a gas station with the air.
Right.
And he's standing there, and I'm filling up my shocks. It turns out he was just waiting for the air thing.
Right.
He didn't want to talk about my car. I thought I was so cool, with my jacking up my Trans Am.
With your air.
With the
I'd
air
forgotten
shock.
about air shocks.
Oh, yeah. The Schrader valve in the back?
The Schrader valve.
Yep.
There were some cars that had a tube that ran from the spare tire to the back of the car
Okay.
where you could air up the spare without opening the trunk.
Nice.
So whatever that solved, I don't really. I guess if you had a Continental kit on your car, it would solve having to move that big thing because those
Yeah.
things are clunky to move.
Yep.
So one of the things that we haven't talked about lately, though, is the Cobra Experience. They're giving away the car in July, and if you go to cobraexperience.org and type in CAM11 as the code, CAM11, you'll get 25% more tickets. It's for a raffle for charity. Cobraexperience.org is their website. Great people. We had Emily, who runs the Cobra Experience, on the show a couple of months ago. We'll have her on again before we get to the giveaway date, which
Nice.
is July something. I'll have to remember that. But and don't forget social media. We've got all kinds of cool things happening on TalkTick and
TalkTick.
I
Yeah.
did that on purpose.
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok is really blowing up. The Grand National, like I said, because there's in the news right now.
Sure.
Got a lot of just went viral for some reason. I don't know why, but check us out. We're having a good time, and we have a new person coming on board starting today.
Oh, right. I forgot all about
who's going to be
that.
all over social media.
Yeah, that's Alyssa Bainbridge. She is the reigning Miss Berks County.
Miss Burke County, former Miss Philadelphia.
Former Miss Philadelphia, Miss Berks County from 2021 and beyond, I guess.
Yep.
She's a host on WRDE, or she's not a host,
Reporter.
she's a news reporter. And she does a fantastic job, and we're excited to bring her on. We're really becoming uptown around here.
Yeah,
Right?
at Classic Auto Mall is where you can find us on social media.
Yeah, and we're on Facebook, and we're on
Instagram,
YouTube.
Some of these interviews now are getting uploaded, so if you want to see the guests as well as hear them, you can go on the YouTube channel. And there's some car features you're doing as well.
Yep, we're doing some car features on there as well too. My daughter Madison is our social media director, and she's down in Missouri. But I guess you don't have to be in the building to do those kind of things. It's one of those good off-premise jobs, and
That's right.
she's doing a great job for us. And check out our drone footage video if you haven't seen that. It's just amazing.
It's the best, and I love the comments. Are like, how did you allow that drone to fly through there?
It was a trusting thing. Trust me, it was a trusting thing. It was very. I was a little nervous about it because I had met this guy and he was really great at what he did. But one wrong turn.
Oh yeah.
And he flew through the back of cars.
I'm watching it right now. You got it on the screen.
Yeah,
out
it's
there.
on the screen out here. But
It's
anyway, don't forget to check us out every week, every Saturday, 9 a.m. And otherwise, come see us here at Classic Auto Mall anytime you're in the area. And we'll talk to you next week. Take it away, Steve.
We appreciate your listening to our show today, and don't forget, when you're in southeastern Pennsylvania, come visit us in person. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday is our late day, and we're here from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays we're open from 9 a.m. to noon, and we are closed on Sundays. You can reach us by telephone at 888-227-0914 or via email at info@classicautomall.com. To reach the show, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. The Classic Auto Mall podcast is produced by Car Smarts Media. Theme song by the Pat Travers Band.